This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world. Well, I'll let you start talking about your sales proposal week.
Yeah. I was trying to just come up with like what the feeling was for the week. It was just like there was a lot of pressure, but there was like good execution that was happening is kind of how I felt. And the momentum was in the right direction. Like it was one of those where it was just like everything was on, but everything felt really good. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. Because it was all in the areas that I really enjoy. Like I was spending my time talking to customers about strategic relationships, helping them identify their automation problems. And then I was helping guide the team. I didn't realize how much just admin time I was putting in on these sales proposals that by changing our SOPs has really freed me up. And we've seen some serious momentum over the last couple of weeks around that. And that's kind of what we'll get into when we talk about like the sales stuff of, like I said, all of this morning was spent just reviewing proposals that the team has drafted because of how much I got out of the way by changing our processes.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, that kind of seems like the best way to answer how I'm feeling, but I realized I didn't really answer probably. Maybe I did.
I think you did. I think you're optimistic that you don't have this time suck that's been pulling you away historically.
Yeah, now
I want to hear more about what those SOPs look like because I'm starting to feel that pain more and more.
So we'll definitely get into that once we get into sales and marketing, once we get through how you're feeling this week.
Yeah, my feelings for the week, I think I'm feeling a lot more optimistic. Man, we had so much money in AR for 3-4 weeks, and cash was already kind of tight, and that just had me really stressed. We also had some turnkeys we were a little bit behind on. So, those 2-3 weeks of working 7 days a week, paid off. I'm actually trying now to kind of break the habit of just working all the time and trying to be able to shut it off. I was there, a couple months ago where I could go home and I just didn't think that much about work.
I don't know. I mean, having work-life balance, like I get wanting that, but in business ownership, it is just tough. Like we just have to accept that there's going to be a little bit of an odd balance there. Like it's shutting it off is difficult. Like there's always going to be the 9 o'clock message. I can't make it in tomorrow because X, Y, Z.
Yeah, and we've been short-staffed for a while. We have started to onboard another potential candidate. I told myself I wasn't going to hire someone overqualified. But in California, it's like you can go and make $20 an hour at McDonald's, and I'm kind of like, well, do I want to hire someone at the bottom of the pay range, or do I want to hire someone at the top? Anyways, I had tried to go after getting this person on the team in the assembly position. And long story short, we're starting to try to onboard him into a junior mechanical engineering role, and he's just been a little CAD wizard. So,
nice.
That's a place that we needed support. So I'm really excited to see some of the product development that's going along without me. Things that we've wanted to do but not prioritized.
I heard product development.
Yeah, but it's not stuff that I'm doing, and I think it's product improvement, not product development, to clarify.
I think I'm going to push, we can get down into this in engineering and R&D, but I definitely want to challenge that a little bit here, and I have some ideas for you. But
sure. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I think it's mostly places where, we'll talk more about it in engineering R&D, my philosophy around it. But generally I'm feeling a lot better. Orders are starting to go through. I'm starting to kind of, play salesman again, which, is good, but I also find I get into these moods where I do X, Y, Z, and it's like, this is almost my thing. And it's like, I've written myself a job description out of thin air. And sure, I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff, but, I go through, maybe a couple of roles simultaneously, and then I kind of struggle to break out of it as needed. So, it honestly felt weird to be like picking up the phone, following up on turnkey deals today, because I haven't done that in, a couple of weeks.
Okay. I guess roll right into it. Let's hear your sales and marketing for the week. What was kind of working, what wasn't, where you want to improve?
So my accountability item from last week was to make 2 ads. And I guess the first thing I'll say is like making those more constrained has made it a lot easier to actually finish them out. We did the two ads. We went and shut the old ad off that had just played again and again. I don't know how much you saw that old.
Oh, I saw.
Mission ad.
I've seen the new ad at least 5 times. So
I know, and
I don't know how
yeah.
many times it would have been the old
Right.
one.
Yeah, and so the old one just stopped converting. No surprise, everyone's seen that ad 2,000 times and just tunes it out. And we rolled out 2 new ads, and we had I think already 3-4 intraload leads come in, 3-4 turnkey leads come in, like great performance. And we're only spending $100 a day with
What's
Meta.
your conversion rate on those? So you have 3 to 4 come in. Is it a 20%, a 50%? What are you looking at there?
On intraload, it's about 30% conversion rate. On turnkeys, the conversion rate's about 40%. Now, that
Raise your
said,
prices.
that said, with the turnkeys, it's a little weird because it depends how you look at the conversion rate. Because some customers, especially like the one-man shops, will realize they can't actually afford to have everything like turnkeyed, and then maybe they buy like a $5,000 package.
Oh, I see why you're saying that the conversion rate's 40. It's because they might not have converted into a turnkey, but they convert into another one of your service. Then that sounds right. Okay.
Yeah. But
I'll say if you're converting 40% of custom turnkey, you're not charging enough. Like that's way too high a conversion rate for this.
Well,
space.
to be fair, yeah. But clearly, I think on this new ad, it's been running since Sunday. We've spent $500. I mean, the ROAS is great.
That's awesome.
But like you said, you've seen it 5 times, and that tells me, well, shit, we need more ad creative. So like we went and put in the effort here to go and make these 2 ads, and sure, it was only like 4 hours, but if you're seeing the same ad 4 times, I've seen my own ad 100 times now.
Complete transparency, though, the first time I was served it, I didn't watch it because I thought it was the old one again for a second.
Yeah.
So I will say the first time it came by, I was like, oh, it's gimbal again. I'm going through.
Yep.
And then the second time I was like, yeah, that was actually different. I need to watch it now. So I would say maybe that's not a problem because I think a lot of people are probably just, there's some fatigue from the last one.
Right.
So they might just be pushing through it. So let that
and I need to just put it in another machine, right? Because that's been in the Brother, which one of our like remote contractors has a W1000 that we do a lot of turnkey work on, so we have him make videos, and because it's easy, he has the turnkey set up, right?
Yeah.
So we do turnkeys here quarter of the time, but we need to go through that same process of turning the customer part into something unrecognizable, film it, and then go and set that up, or actually film it and turn that into ad creative too. But the thing with especially those ads with the gripper, like pallet tending is easy to film, right? Like it's easy to set up, it's easy to run. Like we run so much of our own production on intraload, it's just easy. The gripper stuff, like 1-op, you can set it up in 30 minutes. But the 2-op stuff, you might be there for 2-3 hours to set up a new part, and all of a sudden doing that, or doubles or triples the time to create the ad creative, which is kind of annoying.
You're saying because you have to have a unique part that's not the actual part being
because so like we try to run it. We moved to running all customer hardware on our demo machines because that just guarantees like everything's cut perfectly, like the soft jaws are in place.
Yeah.
There's no variables that are changing. That's been a big process improvement because we used to go and do it on our test unit and then bolt everything on to the customer unit at the end, which didn't occasionally could lead to little things here and there. So that's been a big improvement, but basically what that has translated into is like we want to not make it a 4 or 6 hour process, use that soft jaw and that tray setup, which means we have to go make analogs of the components and recam them because they're different and visually not recognizable. It's just a pain. So there's like with ad creative, it's like, okay, we changed this, it's working, it's converting, but we need more, and we need a process to do it more efficiently. I don't know if you listen to the ad, but like it has like an AI voice, which I'm not sure what the reception is. I think it's getting more normalized.
I think it should be your voice, Michael.
It should. It absolutely should. But it's like how, it's going to take me 20, 30 minutes to get it where I'm satisfied, or I can type it into this service we pay $100 a year and it, it just spits it out.
There's AIs that mimic your voice.
Yep.
I would dig into that.
Yeah, probably. Or just record it.
ca-
I mean, they're 20 seconds.
Yeah, but if you can,
Yeah.
I mean, at least give it to somebody on the team that you just really, I mean, I think sounds like everybody on your team now you'd really trust with that. But I mean, they can create content that sounds like you, which means people are going to think it's you, which means you need it
Yeah.
to treat it like it is you.
Yeah. And I guess
So-
I can build on that kind of Mark Terryberry effect that, he has with Haas, of continuing to be the face of the company, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I have a lot of sales and marketing stuff today. So there's all this ad creative stuff. Meta's doing great for us now. We on Sunday when we kind of came in to just Priscilla and I to do this like marketing day. Also dug into our Google paid advertising and organic, and looking historically at SEO, SEM, our authority score has risen like crazy, but our
Nice.
traffic has actually dropped, and that's concerning. We're starting to lose important keywords.
Oh, you use SEMrush, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they changed SEMrush and SE ranking changed some of their analytics, and they had like, if you weren't in there for the last, because I think you skipped a while,
Yeah.
they were saying that you're going to see dips in reporting should be normal.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have missed some of that for how long you were out. So
Well, so I
I'm
was
not
always
sure
signed
your
up for it. I'm not sure if this affects things. Like we never stopped paying for it, but I did stop looking at it.
Yeah, so they had for a full month there. Every time you went in there, it's like you may see dips in your reporting because of the way Google's changing and the way we're reporting. So don't be alarmed or whatever. Both of them displayed that, and ours saw dips too. So some of that might just be the way that the ranking softwares are now working with the new Google Analytics. So I don't know your full problem, but it might not be as big of an issue as you're anticipating.
Yeah. Well, the bigger issue behind just like marginal traffic drop. I mean, we're talking 10-15%, so it could just be reporting, right?
I think that could just be the reporting. Yeah.
Now, but the bigger issue is that we're losing keywords, right? So we're losing a pneumatic vice keywords to maybe air vice and whatever, to even some random other companies that don't even make pneumatic vices, which is annoying. I think there's more of a shift to kind of unique content, especially as AI becomes. There's a shift in the algorithms, which we haven't responded to. And then the biggest thing that's been the most detrimental to us is Google Shopping ads have just stopped performing for us. There's obviously competing, like especially the auto vices, or most of the market calls them air vices. For whatever reason, our Google Shopping ads are just not showing up anymore. So we're not getting conversions on that product line. It's still showing and kind of working for things that are like, there's not other grippers you can just go buy for CNC machines, right? So obviously we show up there. But anything else that's getting cross-shopped, we're just not showing up. And I have to figure out what's going on there, because that's a real problem.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the reporting. I was curious how.
So, I guess that's one thing too we haven't really put a lot of time and effort into. I mean, obviously we've been putting a lot of effort into physically improving our products. The updating the website has certainly lagged behind. I know you're, and I don't know if it's just you guys or your agency are better at focusing on ranking for certain terms or phrases.
I've been doing this for 4 years now of just tuning. Like one of the first things I did with ChatGPT was to build an SEO analysis agent that I can drop our pages in, tell us what we're doing. Our agency rewrites copy. I run it through that. I then can tune it. I mean, we have an Excel spreadsheet that's like 20 tabs at this point that tracks just every single keyword we're ranking for each page.
Yeah.
Or they're based on verticals, and we break it down. So, we've got hundreds of hours into just tracking the data, let alone the hundreds of hours building it. Like I just got a report this week of all the stuff that we've added. I mean, we've added in the last 15 months, we've added 2,000 keywords to our website. And the amount of educational content really is what drove that.
Right.
I mean, we pumped out 10 knowledge bases, 2 ebooks, complete rewrite of the website in those 15 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sick of reading about us.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I think honestly a website rework is probably more important than improving our products, to be honest. Because like, if I'm being realistic, like the product improvements are important and I want them to happen, but the biggest issue that we are having is just exposure and top of funnel, right?
And it takes 6 to 9 months if you're doing it SEO. Like
Yeah.
we saw a huge increase in January in our traffic, and we're like, what was the driver to that? And it's
Right.
like we did something 6 to 9 months prior once we started digging into it. And it's like, good grief, like this just takes so long. So I'm really curious what's going to happen because we did a huge release in May of this year. Like end of year should be
Right.
really interesting for us. But it takes a while, Michael. Like if you want that SEO to start working for you, I mean, it's going to take a minimum of 3 months to really see it take hold, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a whole other can of worms of like, I'm more than happy to pay for advertising, and that's a much, quicker thing to do. But, long term, it's hard to compete with organic. And I think that I have historically complained about going through these kind of like fits and starts of, I'll get really into something for 2 weeks and, it'll become really great. And then, then I focus on something else, and then, thing XYZ falls by the wayside. And that's been SEO, SEM 3 or 4 times now, right?
I think you just need to get an agency on it. And if you're willing to spend that much on ads, I think you should be willing to spend at least 30% of that on SEO, because that's long-term play. That's the
Right.
Ads are instant gratification, or I think really good for testing things. And then when you need to amplify something. But if your SEO and your pages aren't optimized, potentially you're wasting that extra money that you're spending on ads anyways.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. I get very excited about SEO and education though,
Yeah.
around automation.
Yeah.
It's a big passion that I think everybody on this has come to know me as. So I just enjoy educating people, and I see that through SEO and content.
Yeah. So I guess like philosophically, like how much, at least as a percentage, do you spend on, it's always famously low in our industry compared to other industries, but you have
You're
like a
saying
broad percentage of
dollars or
advertising,
times?
SEO, SEM, as a percentage or dollar value that you spend?
In terms of top line revenue.
Yeah.
So that's been a sliding scale down for us.
Right.
Is what's interesting is our revenue's gone up, but our spend hasn't gone down. It's gone up still. When Develop started, nearly all, like a lot of our profits were going obviously back into the business. A large portion was back into that. We peaked at one point at like almost 20% of revenue was going into ads and marketing. To be completely frank, now we're trending down on that, but I think our industry standard is somewhere around 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
But
I've heard 2 to 3 for the broader manufacturing sector.
Yeah, I think that's accurate as well. I mean, if you do a full analysis of engineering businesses, it's somewhere in that 2 to 6%. So I guess I always like to give the benefit of the doubt. If you want to be in the top percentage, you need to be in the 5.
I think the broader market, like the recommended number is 16%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. And we're leveling out a little under that is what I'm seeing. I'm trying, like a sustainable one is we're going after repetitive growth at that point. I'm seeing like 11 to 12% is a nice spot, I think, but that's jury's still out on that.
Yep. All right. Well, I will take all this under consideration and definitely start to look back into, getting an agency or doing something. One thing we had considered is, obviously we have our Shopify guy who I rant and rave about, the really putting some time and effort to get, like 1 or 2 just talented contractors that, we can pay 10 hours a week or whatever it might be. But maybe that's just me being cheap. Because obviously the advantage of an agency is you get consistency, but the disadvantage that I've seen historically is a lot of them just kind of get on the retainer and then they do the bare minimum, right?
Yeah, it's holding accountability there. It goes back to the reason I'd love to have some form of agency support within a holding company that Develop has.
Yep.
For that exact reason. But I gotta say, our agency's been, after we've gone through a few, I've been really happy with the way it's working.
Yep. Well, what about your sales and
Yeah.
marketing? We've talked about my SEO for like 20 minutes now.
Like we talked about last week, having 2 engineers being able to work among themselves and ideate rather than me being the ideate loop with 1 engineer is gaining us a lot of momentum. And I'm also seeing that I think I'm not thinking it's happening. We're having more accurate bids, and there's more thought going into them because they're doing the ideation and then I'm coming in as like a unbiased review of it as almost a customer. And
Yep.
it's really cool seeing it from that way because we're also getting, with the more reviews, we're actually getting more competitive, I think, is what's happening over the last couple of weeks, what I've seen. And it's like, no, there's, all right, we can reduce the hours here because we padded that or XYZ, or we're not just saying let's mitigate our risks by doing XYZ. I think we're getting really cool competitive on some things too, which has been fun to see. We've also been able to focus on a lot of strategy within the way we're bidding rather than just you know, how do we go about building this machine? How do we build our business as we're going around it as well? Like we had a really cool conversation today that really got me excited because as everybody knows, we love our extrusion processing machines. We love our packaging and palletizing. Something that I love to do when we're building machines is build in features for future value to this customer and other customers because that's what's separating us. That's what we did with our HMI. That's what we've done with our software. That's what we've done with our data. The issue is as develops matured, now our projects are getting bigger and now it's how do we control that so we mitigate some of our risks. Kind of same
Right.
R&D that we've talked about. But it was cool to see how we're layering that in and putting go and kill budgets on internal development for future features of develop. So that was really cool to see that and how we can layer those risks out in the bids.
Right.
I don't know, I kind of ranted there, but I've been really jazzed about it.
Yeah. A little bit of like R&D balance, but for the most part, I guess one thing I wanted to hear more about, you talked a lot about changing, in your thoughts and feelings of the week, like changing your SOP process for sales and proposals.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, is that just scoped out now permanently to be done kind of in this format where it's being, goes directly to the engineers and they almost propose to you as a customer before the actual proposal call happens?
Kind of, yeah, that's the way it's working. Really, the goal has been how do we make it so Matt is spending as little time actually doing the documents. He is reviewing them and communicating with the customer. So I'm less biased on what we're putting together because at the end of the day, the customer comes first on what we need to build, and then can do it that way and is aligned with the business. So what's happening is I'm a mediator almost between customer and develop. I've got our engineers laying out what makes the most sense to build a machine. And then I'm also reviewing from the customer lens. I got this weird spot because then I'm also looking at the profit from develop and risks as well of what they pose there. So it's like, what's the best way for both worlds to bring us together? And it's almost ending up more strategic that way from a relationship. And I think we're adding more value to the customer, which is interesting, where I would have thought that potentially I would have been skewing it one way or the other. I think we're ending up with a better value for long-term customers. I don't know if that answers it.
Yeah, it does. I guess there's always the dream of a silver bullet, and I think I just need to really, internally for us, go and try to build out some of these sales and marketing processes. I think, one thing that's a big issue is, like right now, ever since we got rid of our sales guy who was very much underperforming, I kind of just jumped into that role and, I've been handling it day by day, but I haven't built out processes. There's not, any automated workflows or funnels or, like we have a proposal and, we send out, we do so many of these 2-op automation turnkeys, like, I know what 7 buttons to click for a HubSpot and it doesn't take super long, but there's not a clean workflow. There's not an automated follow-up. Like I need to clean up that process.
Is your time at all in proposals because for us, it's drafting these proposals and the documentation.
Honestly, and the other week I talked about, this one potential $50,000-$60,000 turnkey and like how much time do I put into it? When I actually like go and track the time, it was like 3 hours total. I mean, it's not a lot. So,
but still, so you're describing
but that's a one-off. That's a one-off. So typically, we're always doing a 30-minute call. Typically we get a proposal, at least a rough one, out right away. And honestly, it depends if it's a standard thing or a more complicated thing. But like for Intraload, it's usually a 30-minute call, a 30-minute demo, and then, sometimes scoping it out, which is easy. And then for the gripper stuff, a lot of the time it's one 30-minute call and a proposal.
So it sounds like for that the longer sales cycle, it sounds very similar to us, just the magnitude's a little bit different. So
Yeah.
I could still walk you through the way we narrowed in on that. We've moved, so we use Microsoft tools. We use OneNote now. I take my 30-minute call or 60-minute, whatever it kind of turns into. I have that all recorded. I get a
Yep.
transcription via AI Fixer
Yep.
for those that are listening that have heard me rant about that one. Or have been listening. So then that gets dropped into ChatGPT, and then I've built out an agent that lays
Do you
out
drop the whole transcript, or do you just drop
Whole
in Fixer summary? Okay.
the whole transcript is what I drop in there. Fixer does an okay on transcript summary, not always greatest. And then I use that and I start having a conversation with the agent that I've built around building our proposals and how we do our modules. And I have that help me build out our modules for the machine. And then I create an executive summary.
Gotcha.
That's where I land. It takes me what used to be hours because I was building out all the modules. I'm now doing a rough scope in like 15 to 20 minutes. And we're talking about very complex machines. And I then drop that all into OneNote. I put that on the list for the engineering team to then take that into our formal proposal to actually add the context, the details of what it's going to take on metrics of this, because that was the time that I was also doing. They bring that together. That then goes to so that's a guy on electrical and software side of the business. That then goes to our CAD side of the business to scope out and create a visual for the customers. They then lay out the costing, have a bit of a debate on what that's going to look like, risk analysis of it, and then I get brought in to review the proposal and review the costing, and then that goes through a series of revisions back and forth before we go back to the customer.
Quick question. You know, obviously, I don't know if you agree with this, but you know, we use Fixer too. The transcripts work really well. In my opinion, the AI summary, their executive summary, is awful.
Yep.
Okay, I want to make sure you agreed with that. I mean, are they really clean out of ChatGPT? Is that working really well? Yeah.
The notes are better.
Okay.
So I move all my stuff over there for like the follow up. Like I don't like Fixers. What it kicks out for a follow up.
Oh God,
notes and summaries. No,
I wish I could turn that off. 'Cause
yeah,
I
I
have to go
agree.
delete that every
Yeah, I
single
have to
time.
delete it.
Yep.
So I take that and then I send my summary notes from that separately too.
Yep.
So that's been our process. What's not working now, what's interesting is because now we've got a couple deals that need to get inked, and our processes aren't so great on that. Getting some of the stuff closed, because we don't close a whole lot of deals, but the way we're selling our automation assessments now with strategic relationships, we're seeing momentum on that front of the funnel, which is these smaller deals. And now those processes need to change. And I'm like, I need to figure out a way to get this off my plate, because me sending out the contracts to those people with the metrics in there, I think it can be automated done better.
This has been a theme, I think, for me, is that I've been underutilizing AI, and it's been costing me a lot of time, right? And especially hearing, you're like, okay, well, we have the ChatGPT agent for what we're doing wrong with SEO and for proposals and so on and so forth. I think that's something I need to take seriously and get through the learning curve and actually utilize, and I'll save a lot of time.
Oh, it's been our momentum has been crazy with it. Like the amount of stuff, like we're using it in marketing. I think it's admin. I keep saying front of office is where this is seeing. We're trying it for some of the technical. It's helping for some of our documents and SOWs internally, but like the real critical thinking and execution in CAD.
Well, I churned through 3 or 4 virtual assistants. For me personally, I think you, after reading that one book, also kind of got on the potential executive assistant train, but I don't think you hired anybody.
It was the interesting timing of AI, and I offset 80% of what I wanted with AI.
I used to have my EAs go and read through my email and respond and create drafts and to-dos, and literally Fixer does like 80% of that, 90% as well. And there's all this opportunity for me that I'm just not utilizing, I think.
I should look back at the job description I created for an executive assistant, because I think the only things that are remaining is client onboarding and some project accounting and POs. Otherwise, that's going to be, we're going to need an internal project accountant here soon. That'll be somebody else we'll need to do.
Yeah. Okay. Random sidebar question. For outline legal documents, like when you, like for us, I need to update our contractor agreement. which I haven't done in a while. Do you have a go-to for that? Do you use LegalZoom? Like, what do you do when you have a random legal document
What
that
has our
needs to be
conversation
created?
just been about?
So you just go straight to AI?
I've been using AI for a lot of
Okay.
the reviews.
Yeah.
I don't
Not
blank,
reviews, like fresh document creation.
yeah, don't blatantly trust it.
Yeah, of course.
There's been some funky things in there that like I read it, but it comes up with
Yeah.
good solutions. Like
Yeah.
I have it do a first review of all NDAs. That
Yeah.
saved me a lot of time.
Oh, that's clever.
I've built out a separate agent for that. That I drop it in there. I have it do a strict bullet point list of what I want it checking for, what I want it to correct, and it just does that blatantly. And if it flags a few things, then I have to dig into it. But it saves me a pile of time and like
Yeah.
that portion of it.
Obviously, you're not going to like publicly share any of these agents because, like, uh, competitive advantage. But if you're willing to share any of this with me, that would be
Yeah,
really interesting to take a look at.
I don't know how I just copy paste an agent.
I don't know how it works either.
Yeah, because
I'll look into it.
we can dig into that, or I could at least teach you how to build these out because
Yeah.
it's not that crazy. Like it takes a couple
Right.
hours, and then you're just continuously training it on the
Right.
things that doesn't work. It's just a CI loop.
Yeah. Well, Priscilla's been using AI just tons, and I've kind of been here, just going off of kind of quote unquote expertise or whatever might be, and there's a lot to be said now for not using talent to brute force things and saving your mental capacity.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. So
Anyways, we've been on marketing for a minute.
yeah, we've been on this for
Yeah.
literally 40 minutes. I don't really have anything. I think that really sums it up. Need to continue to double down on these SOPs because I'm really enjoying this process.
Yeah, awesome. What's our next section here?
Engineering and R&D.
All right, you're gonna eat me alive for this one. So I guess I mentioned that there was a little bit of new product development. I guess the first thing that I'll mention is like, when we initially tried to, we interviewed this guy Mike, and the first thing we do now is an aptitude test, and most people get like halfway through, like a good candidate usually gets halfway through, and he's one of the first to finish, so that was great. And from there we take people on for a demo day, and occasionally we get this email of like, oh, I've decided to pursue other positions, and I was like, I don't want to let this guy go, right? I don't know if you've ever had that feeling of like, I don't want to lose this candidate, and sometimes that FOMO can be bad.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to get, this isn't really in R&D, but I'll get to that. I'd kind of taken the position of I don't really want work from home, and that was kind of the deal breaker with this person. And I basically told him, hey, let's give it a try. Instead of a demo day, let's do a demo week. And got him to come in, and have been kind of blown away with his CAD performance. And I'm really excited. I guess that's the first thing. What do you feel generally about work from home? About shaking
No
your
fly
head?
zone. Nope.
No fly zone. Yeah.
Not a developed size in what we do. Like
Yeah.
I understand if you have like a personal time or something like that where like there's some health concerns with you or a family member, like I want to be flexible with team members on that, but there's a line in the sand.
Right.
As far as our team just needs to collaborate on physical goods so much. I don't care how good they are at CAD. If they can't be here, it's just not going to work
Right.
for develop.
Yeah. But
That's where
anyways,
I
I'm
stand.
trying it, so we're going to see, because even there, like we've had tons of just contractors who we were paying $25 an hour or whatever to do CAD work, and seeing somebody fly through, even if they're here 2/3 of the time, I think is a win. But obviously we'll have to find out. But anyway, with
You ever
that,
think of just making him a contractor then?
yeah, that's still on the table, right? So we're figuring that out.
I might consider that.
Yeah.
Because then there's, I don't know, you're gonna have a cultural thing because you have existing team members.
Right.
If you say that he's a contractor and that's what
That's a
he
good
is,
point. Yeah.
you can manage that relationship differently. You can set your
Right.
expectations differently. You can also maybe create very specific projects
Yeah.
around that. I think this is an opportunity to look at how you manage that
Right.
person.
Well, this is why I asked if you had a good contractor agreement or how you were actually setting them up, because we hadn't had such a like formalized, potentially 40-hour a week worth of contractor work for, or we haven't utilized a contractor to the same extent maybe we would have an employee in a long time. So that's something I'm exploring.
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
Yeah, there's a couple online tools I used, but I think ask ChatGPT about what to and not put in those agreements based on your business, what you really want to protect and what you expect of that person. I think you can draft something out pretty quick around that.
Okay.
At the end of the day, contractors, it's relationship.
Right.
And so you just need to have your clear expectations and your clauses for termination taken care of.
Yep.
Because a lot of it's going to run verbal anyways. And
anyway,
if
I want to go back
down.
to R&D.
Yeah. No, I just trying to. Gotcha. Go ahead.
So that was like kind of the background context. So one thing we went back from, I mentioned a couple of weeks back. We got rid of the sticky notes. We went to a Scrum board that has a bigger Gantt chart above it, and we kept finding these things that we wanted to change. Whether they're products or just like machine maintenance or whatever, and we just put them in like a features request board. Almost like a Trello board. That's been really helpful, and obviously having someone kind of new just jump in. We just kind of pulled a couple feature requests from a couple products to test it. So like our grip module,
how do you prioritize them? How's your Trello board prioritized?
Let me take a look at our little board here. We probably should put things more. It's kind of Michael's gut feeling of what's the most important, and then it goes from new to under review to planned to in development to launched.
Because that's one thing that we've seen to help us gain momentum on tasks like that is you put them in order of priority and you only allow so many tasks in WIP.
Yep.
Like you have to have a limit on WIP and a clear priority order.
Gotcha. We have like 4 in WIP right now.
That's manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of those things too is whenever I see 2 field failures of anything, that usually constitutes a new rev. Because like for us, process reliability is everything.
Oh, it's mission critical.
Yeah. So we had a second field failure of a relay. Luckily, when they fail right on install, which is good, I suppose. But
yeah, you covered this last week with the Haas relays.
Yep. So that's one of the projects that we assigned to him. Is like, okay, we're going to put relays that are 4 times as expensive into a new 24-volt converter kit, and he designed that. So I kind of stand by the R&D that we've, or even just product iteration. I think you called it ECOs.
Yeah, and I think you could do a priority literally based on that too. You could have clear standards that like in-field product failures automatically move to the top of the priority list.
Right.
If that's happening, that's impacting our quality, our brand reputation. Any other R&D isn't a priority compared to that. Like Absolutely. That, I think that's a clear one of how you identify how you give your priority, so it's not subjective on Michael's feelings.
Yeah. And there's other like little stuff in here like fixed meta advertising to limit the number of times an ad shows to an individual user. That's like a thing that needs to happen. That might be marketing related. A lot of these things are things I just tackle one by one. And
it's a CI list. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
But not tons of like we're also like adding little dowel holes to improve our assembly time on the grip module. Little things that we can do like we're on a Kanban system now. We're about to run out of one of the most expensive parts that we make, which is the grip module bases. And it's like, okay, that improvement needs to be made before we pull that Kanban card.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Because we want to make that improvement on the next run of 8 modules, not 8 modules after that, right?
Yes.
Cool. Well, what about R&D product development for you?
Mine has been in the sales side. Like we've been R&Ding because it's like I am so jazzed about extrusion processing machines. Like we've got some really cool projects that I think have some serious legs. And so it's been putting relationships together on these machines and keeping the scopes limited because Matt's and the team are so passionate about growing this side of our business that it's easy to overscope a machine than what the customer's needs are. And so we need to make sure what are their needs, what does the budget allow with that, and then what portion of that profit can we allocate to R&D on that machine. And being very strategic about how we limit that has been a blast this week. That's been one portion of it. Machine builds are like the momentum behind it is really cool to see because we have less running in parallel right now. And so the way that the team's moving stuff through has been really interesting to see, kind of like what we've seen in the Toyota Way book of, running single piece flow on machines would be interesting. I know we've talked about that in the past in the podcast. I don't think it's feasible to get there because then we need to change our like machine build loop to like weeks, not months, and that's
Yeah.
just not going to happen with lead time. So that's been interesting.
You know, it, I read at your recommendation the Toyota Way, and then I read it like 4 more times. Well, listened to because I don't really read books, but and you know, one thing that listening to that and also 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers multiple times, that really drilled down to me like it is possible more than you think. And you know, we've been trying to implement this, and it's really you got to focus on changing the tools to make things possible, and also still take what they say with a grain of salt. So like for us, you know, ironically, like you know, we used to run production a variety of ways, a variety of manual fixtures. Just moving everything over to our own intraload and running in batches of 9 has made it so much easier. And getting standardized tooling list has made it so much easier. But you know, like we don't go to the extremes. And I think that you know Paul Akers and a lot of these lean guys love to talk about like, oh, you know, I machined one part, and you know, that's not realistic. You know, and where we landed is like, okay, we make 18 of most parts, right? We run 2 intraload batches, and then we move on.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's limiting how many machines are within a stage.
Yeah.
So we've got clear stage gates on our machine build, and it's limiting that because what I've seen in the past is we end up with, we have a lot of really good, well, what it used to be is a lot of really good momentum on design, build, and then we get hung up in test.
Right.
Now it's flipped in the design we're spending more time on, and then testing is flying through because these machines are performing.
Because you built so many of them, you don't have to troubleshoot them. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it. We're not spending all that time. So now it's like, all right, how do we get faster design so we can tighten up this loop? Because the mission is making it so we can design and build custom machines in under 6 months. That's what we've been chasing. And I'm saying whether it's a multi-million-dollar machine at our scale, I mean, there's going to be a cap at it, but that's where the team's driving to, and it's really cool to see how close we're getting there because we're doing it on smallish machines, say under like 300,000. But then machines that are that 500,000 to million are taking that longer period of time, and it's how do we compress that down?
Gotcha. All makes a lot of sense.
The other interesting thing with engineering and R&D is machines and field support for new features. So we've got machines out in the field now where they've been running, and now customers are wanting SKUs added.
Okay.
And they're wanting new features added, or they're wanting different reporting on their data. Mm-hmm. And of course, these are features they want now. Yesterday, they've got a customer that's driving it. And it's a lot of unplanned work that we also need to bid and execute. And so it's figuring out how to manage more of that because we're seeing an influx that we haven't seen in the past on that side of it, which is, it's really good because our machines are performing for people and now they're wanting to do more. Or we've got one where they're like, we might be needing to duplicate this now.
Yeah. But, you know, having been there too, like, oof, you know, ECOs, when it's already in the field and, you know, and they're going to be all worried about downtime, you know, even if you send someone there to do the testing, like those are always the hardest conversations to have. And I have seen the most negative price reactivity because like they're like, oh, well, the machine's going to be down and like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But, you know, you and I both know like a lot of the time an ECO that doesn't look like that big of a deal is that big of a deal.
Yeah, we've ran into that. And I think it's managing the expectations of what it is worked out really good. Like we've had some really good candid conversations with our customers. This is the customer I'm thinking of right now that we're going through this with. It's just been incredible to work with it on though. Like he is so realistic on what it costs, what he's asking. And also like there was one, he's like, hey, I want to do XYZ. And it was outside parameters. It was something that the machine was never designed for. And it's like, your machine just never should do that. Like trying to do an ECO around it, you should just build a new machine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting though, because it is a different one because we've had it go the other way too, where it's like, why does this cost $40,000 to do this change? It only cost $5,000 the first time when it was on your floor.
Yeah, and we have this right now in kind of a, you know, the optional pre-ECO that we've been offering to customers who've already purchased an intraload. You know, we're offering to, you know, pricing it out to add, you know, and these are $50,000 systems, right? We have the ECOs to go from 9 pallets to either 12 or 16. And, you know, for context, you know, adding those 3 pallets, it's like $7,000. And adding, you know, up all the additional pallets, and this is before like the actual vices, is like $11,000. And, you know, if I compare it to like moving from, you know, 9 to 12 or 9 to 16 on a Trinity system, like that's $120,000, right? Like this is an insane value. But, you know, I've had one customer, like absolutely, rubber stamp it, let's go. And, another customer who I think is also, an excellent, well-run shop, be like, oh, this is insanely expensive, right? And, that's whenever there's an ECO, I just have no idea what's going to happen. Some people are like, perfect, let's go. And other ones are like, oh, you can even cut them a great deal and they'll him and haw. Maybe they'll say yes eventually, maybe they won't.
Yeah, I don't. That's a. I wish I had an answer, your silver bullet for that, because we see a lot of that as well, where it's like, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, and what I don't like being is like in the limbo we're currently in, where it's like they haven't said yes and they haven't said no, and it's like, and that's been dragging on for a couple of weeks. And it's like, we're just gonna build all the other parts, and that we can on all the systems, and just
You should give them a date, like
yeah,
hey,
we did today, but that's only because we kind of expected an answer within a couple of days, and that's dragged on now to a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing too. I need to be a little bit less flexible sometimes.
Yeah. Send recurring emails. I mean, when we get an invoice from you, I get like an invoice reminder less than like 12 hours later. It seems like do that.
Yeah. That's because Priscilla does it, right? She's like on it.
Oh, okay. And I'm like, man, I haven't even read the thing yet.
I think actually, I don't know if it's a QuickBooks reminder. You're like the one person we still invoice through QuickBooks and not through HubSpot. Yeah, which might be why, and that's just an accounting thing.
Yeah, it's an auto reminder. It's very clear with that because it's consistent every single time.
Because we don't put that as revenue. We put your payment as negative advertising. Right?
I get it.
It's like your half of the advertising cost of doing the pod.
Yep. All right.
Cool. Well, what's our accountability, right? What was yours for last week?
Any company-wide updates and improvements is the last thing.
Yep.
I have one I can cover. If you want, I guess.
Go for it.
Have you heard of Plot AI?
Yeah.
So
I haven't used it.
Yeah. So whatever the pin that's on my chest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've been using it for sales calls. So when I'm in the field, and now I'm doing it for internal meetings, and I get full transcriptions of that. And that's also playing into our sales loop. So we just tested this week. I'm really excited. Had a 2 hour and a half, I believe is what it was, site visit. I had very strategic questions because the team had done an awesome job prepping me better than any other site visit we've been. I had like 20 questions that I had to get answered. I got those answered somewhere in between the entire 2.5 hours.
Right.
And now they have an entire transcription of that AI that they can search rather than ask me.
That's so cool.
They finished the proposal.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that proposal is going to be done because they got that full transcription this morning. They're already spinning the edits. It's a high priority proposal. I'm hoping tomorrow I'm sending the customer an updated proposal. It's like a 20-page proposal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That one's really cool.
Yep. For CIs for us, I think one thing that I'm really focused on is long-term really bringing all of our manufacturing or as much as we can in-house. And with that, it's been, we're starting to look at using Toolpath to do automatic cam generation. Actually, not so much for us, but for our customer parts when we do turnkeys, we have to cam them. We're looking at we're standardizing our tooling list more. We're trying to get the machines networked to make those little things a little more seamless. We're upgrading our holders to pretty much exclusively shrink fit wherever we can. We're doing all the little things to make our machining process a lot better. And we're also going and redoing a lot of parts and actually making them less efficiently. Because we're adding a manual process in detabbing the components like on a belt sander, usually on a non-precision surface. And we do that because it lets us run these lower quantities and keep less dollars tied up in inventory. Also, when we make a rev change, obviously, that's less wasted money.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm really thinking about that one. Making them less efficiently so you can have...
It lets us be nimble, and I think one thing to keep in mind too is we're incredibly high mix, low volume. At 300-400 unique part numbers, the problem is like, okay, we the majority of our revenue is coming in through turnkeys. Let's say we do 7 turnkeys in a month, right? That's only 7 grip slip grip modules. That might only be 20 grippers, and there might be another 10 grippers on top of it. All of them are going on to different machines, right? So we got to have a FANUC and a brother, and a through spindle coolant and a through spindle air version, and then all of a sudden you got 30 different part numbers. And because of that, we want to keep our quantity of things that we're making relatively low. And yet, it's less efficient, but to set up 2 different ops to do so on non-standardized work holding, to have soft jaws, that forces us then to either make the prices ridiculous or to outsource it internationally, which is what we're trying to stop. So like
Yeah.
because of that, we're just saying, okay, we're gonna make it less efficiently, and we're gonna stand it off, but we gotta make it in house, and we gotta whenever we want to make a change, we just gotta do it, as opposed to making an engineering drawing and updating things and sending it to the vendor and getting it requoted and so on.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're saying less efficiently, but overall it's a net
Yeah,
gain.
okay,
Like
that's fair.
I see what you're saying. Like yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool perspective. I like it, Michael.
We're adding a manual process in, but it's making everything else better.
Yeah.
And like, sure, we're not spitting finished parts out by using this kind of tab or window frame method.
It's not
and
a
there's
ridiculous ask of the team.
Yeah, it's not. So, and honestly, like when we were outsourcing, especially whenever we would outsource internationally, we always ended up reworking and doing handwork anyways. So, this this way we catch it on the first article part, and okay, we're grinding a tab off and trying to blend it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep. We improved our turnkey macros a lot. I mean, nobody probably cares listening to this, but it makes us do the turnkeys faster. So.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's something they should care about. I'm assuming they're going to buy some from you, so that's
Yeah,
good. You get your turnkeys faster from Gimbal.
Yeah, and they're easier to understand, and that's that's one thing that's a big deal too, because especially how they were laid out before. Now we take all the things that the user can change and we put them at the very top, and everything else we try to hide from them, right? So, yeah, that's been a CI for us.
Perfect. What is on your challenge for next week?
Well, let's start with yours because we talked about mine. What was yours? I did not bring my remarkable tablet. What was yours last week?
Mine was execute and help from the team, and I gotta say, my team members have really helped me execute to a level that I was really happy with. And what's interesting is this week was lower critical potential, high opportunity deals, and I'm rolling into 2 weeks of really high opportunity strategic deals for potential customers that a couple of them could potentially change the trajectory of the business on a really good way that aligns with where develop's been wanting to go. I shouldn't say trajectory. It's literally just gonna accelerate some things in some interesting ways, in ways we wanted to go. So I want to double down on what we've been doing is really my accountability and crush those meetings. I've got one this week and then I got two this week, coming week, and then one the following week.
Okay, well, we'll do this, crush the 2 sales meetings.
Yeah, I really want to I want to be so prepared.
Or crush 1 out of 2, because things can go wrong out of your control.
No, I'm going to get them both. I'm 100% back.
Okay, we'll see. Talking through all this, like, there's so many things I want to do. Like, I want to, and I think, I want to do the keywords, and I want to make new ad creative, and I want to do all these, CIs, and I want to make new SOPs, but having talked through all of this, I think the one thing I need to do is like take a real deep dive into AI and see how I can make all my other things easier.
And I think the task I'm going to give you with that AI is take all your CIs that you're wanting to do and help you prioritize them and maybe ask you questions about what the real priorities are for your business. Because that's going to force you to use AI in a different way than you have. And I think it's going to start helping you focus on where those CIs you should be doing, because I think that's something you're running into. Is there's so many. We've had the same thing at Develop. I've had to kill CIs, or maybe not kill is the right word, but put them lower on the list, and they just don't get to start until others are done.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you should be using AI for.
I think what I'm going to do is just build one ChatGPT AI agent to do something. Because with the ads last week, like, okay, they're small. Like, for me, like, I've used AI before. I've used it to help write code for, specifically like G code on some of our early gripper macros. But because it's something newer that I'm getting into, obviously I've used a bunch of these tools that are like automated, like Descript to do some of our video editing, or Canva, or Fixer, or whatever. But to build like AI agents and this, that, and the other thing, I know it's not that hard, but I need to actually research it and figure out how to prompt well.
I've found the ones that I use the best are the ones that I need for big tasks intermittently.
Yep.
The ones that I've built that I was like, oh, I'm going to now get these things done on a weekly basis. It's still this weird friction. Like, I still suck at getting my LinkedIn. I built out an agent for it. I have automated a bunch of it. And maybe it's just I'm not super excited about that portion of tasks that I have in front of me. But I don't use that one the way I thought I would.
By the way, man, I struggle with LinkedIn anymore because it's just AI soup everywhere.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And that might have been part of it is I was posting some of my stuff up there and I saw a reduction in engagement. And then I just saw a lot of very similar stuff. I was like, gosh, like
Oh man. Yeah.
we have one competitor. I
Uh-huh.
swear if I post something like within the next like 2 to 3 weeks, I see the exact same thing reposted on their page. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just be original.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we got our accountability items. I don't think. Oh, you know what? Actually, the questions. There's still like a week or two delay, so people won't even have heard that message yet. So we don't have any listener questions. You want to throw in something personal that on your plans for this week or this weekend?
Oh, I'm getting a lot of stuff ready around the house. It's Milo's baptism next week. And so getting stuff cleaned up and ready for that. Also,
Yeah.
he's starting to move. So I can't trust him just laying in the middle of a bed anymore. So
Yep.
that's kind of my something personal. I've got a kid on the move.
Yep. For me, it's like half work. Like Priscilla started like working more for the company, and I think you kind of rightly encouraged me to be skeptical, but that's actually going, even better than I'd planned. And one little bonus, and this is the personal bit, is that the dogs get to come to work. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
nice to have the doggies, and we have one like super friendly one, Teddy, and then Charlie the Shiba is the stubborn one that we're trying to get to be nice to everybody. So
Did you buy your Shiba Inu coin when you bought the dog?
no. Yeah. I have not bought any Shiba related coins, nor do I plan to.
Yeah. All right. I think that's
Cool.
a wrap for the week.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.